Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturian Society.
Welcome, everybody. This is actually round two of this episode. Unbeknownst to y'all, there is
Yeah.
a secret, hidden, missing episode that you guys will probably never get to see, which is about 8 minutes long, I think, maybe shorter.
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much due to the fact that my internet is being awful today. I'm pretty sure that the extent of that episode was us complaining about my internet. So,
Yeah.
welcome. Nothing, you didn't
Yeah.
miss anything. Don't worry.
Yeah. So there's if you're on YouTube, there is no video like where you can see our live faces. It's still not live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we had to take the path of least resistance for Ash's internet.
Unfortunately, and I don't understand because I have been using internet and video calling a bunch every single day. I have to do like multiple video calls a day for work and it's been fine. So I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on right now specifically, but hopefully this will not become a problem.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. And like I mentioned in the last time we tried to do this, I'm on the wait list for a bunch of high-speed internet providers. So as soon as enough people where I live want that, they will let me have it. But currently, there's so many people who live out here who are like, yeah, we don't really need that fancy schmancy high speed internet. And I'm like, yes,
Oh
you
my
do.
gosh.
We all need it.
That's so weird. Who doesn't want high-speed internet?
I have no idea. The people who lived here before were like, yeah, we pretty much just hotspot off our phones. And I was like,
Oh gosh.
how? How can you live in 2022 and do that? It's
Ugh,
crazy. Anyways,
yeah.
that one over there with the good internet is Karissa Harlow, aka
Ha
Lewis.
ha. I have good
Uh,
internet.
the
And
voice
that over
you're
there
hearing, yeah,
is Tolkien,
that's
aka Ash
me.
O'Rourke.
It's true. I'm the one with the bad internet. Sorry, everybody. I don't want it to be this way. I don't know why it is this way. Um, yeah. Anyways, I don't even remember what I said last time, but welcome to the Scripturian Society. We talk about writing. We put letters into words and words into sentences and sentences into stories.
There you go. That was the gist.
That was the pretty much the actually we've already covered everything in 2 minutes and 40
Writing.
seconds that we covered.
Ta-da!
Writing, bad internet. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just beginning to ask Karissa about her week when we cut out last
Yeah.
time. So,
And I said that if you listen to last episode, you know my parents are getting puppies and we're very excited. And next week we get to bring the first one home because she'll be 8 weeks. And we're very excited. I'm super excited. So that's awesome. And then Ash was telling us about her current dog, her new dog that is there somewhere.
yes, I have a sweet girl named Brownie. Don't worry, you guys wouldn't have seen her on the video anyways because she's currently locked out of the room. Not because she's not wonderful and sweet. She would just lay down by my feet, but because our AC unit is so loud and it's right outside the door. So I am in my new office. It's actually probably better that you guys can't see it because it's pretty gross looking in here right now. It's
It's just
largely
plain.
unpacked. It's very plain. I
Yeah.
need to paint the walls. I need to paint the trim. It's all on my to-do list. But Brownie's a good girl. I'll see if I can post some pictures of her. And so she's spending her first week with us this week. And she loves to chase the chickens and the guineas, but she never catches them. She stops just short of catching them, even though she totally could. And then she just
Nice.
watches them fly away. Yeah, she's just there for the drama. That's all she's in it for.
Nice.
It's very cute. But she's got separation anxiety. So she
Mm.
gets pretty upset if she can't see me. So she tends to
Aw.
follow me around. She's okay right now
Okay.
because husband's home and he's accessible in case she wants him.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get the sense a lot of dogs are like suffer from separation anxiety, particularly when they're in a new place. Because that's
yeah.
what we've been told by the breeders that like they're going to whine and be upset for a while because they'll be away from their siblings and mother and everything. So I think that's pretty
yeah.
normal.
It's pretty normal. But I think she had separation anxiety before too, which is my only concern with her. Because I don't want to have to leave her crated when we're gone, but I'm afraid that because she
Mm.
gets separation anxiety so badly that if we don't leave her in the crate, she's gonna like hurt herself or just destroy stuff. So we're working
Yeah.
on I like been looking up how to help a dog with separation anxiety. So there's like you have to like try and leave the house in a certain way and return to the house like in a certain way with like a certain attitude and like give them a soft toy when you leave for positive reinforcement. So we're working on all that stuff and just being able to leave the room without her panicking. And yeah, so anyways, lots and lots of positive reinforcement training going on. And then also we want to be able to take her with us when we go places that are like outdoors and dog friendly, but she's not good at coming when we call her. So that's the other big thing we're working on is just look at me and come, because she knows the commands. She's very smart. She just gets so excited outside that she won't listen. So we're working on that.
Yeah. That's cute though. You said she's like 2 years old?
She's 2 years old and she's such a good girl. She's such a little snuggler. All she wants is to just snuggle up right next to you. And she's so tiny compared to what I'm used to. So she's just, I could just pick her up. She's so little. She's so cute. I love her so much.
See, like the puppies that we're gonna have, I can pick them up. I'm physically capable of it, but I'm always so concerned that I'm gonna hurt them somehow. It's kind of like holding a baby. And I know that dogs are even more like
resilient.
I'm not gonna resilient than babies are. So like I'm not gonna hurt them. And I see how other people hold them. And still when I have them, I'm like, are you okay? Do you need me to move my hand? Like, what do I need to do here? Because I'm so scared I'm going to hurt them. It's so weird. And then they probably sense that and then they get nervous.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know. She ever held a dog before? I feel like maybe she's never
does she
held
know
a
what she's
dog
doing?
before.
Yeah. But I do think they're beginning to recognize us and like us. And like me, it was very windy yesterday when we went to visit them. And the littlest one, she's not the runt, but you could mistake her for the runt. And she was shivering. And at first I was like, oh no, she's afraid of me. But then I was like, no, she's cold because it's windy. And so I was like hugging her to keep her warm.
Oh my gosh. That's so sweet. Oh, that's precious.
I love
Brownie.
dogs.
Yeah, Brownie's not that little. She's a whole 2 years old. So she's nearing the end of her puppy phase, but yeah.
I mean, that's cute too, because I'm sure she's like full of energy and everything.
She is. She's a lab pit mix. And I thought she was going to have more of that pit energy, but she still takes a lot of like naps during the day, like a lab would.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm surprised because she's got that energy, especially she gets it in like bursts and then she just like chills. And from the top, she looks like a lab. And from underneath, like when you see it, like her like chin angle underneath, she looks like a pit.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Aw.
Yeah, she's going to get to meet my mom this weekend. So my mom's all excited to meet her grand dog.
Yay.
And I think she's actually going to babysit her on Easter because we have plans and mom really just wants to like decompress on Easter. So I think she's going to babysit our dog, which is again, ridiculous. I do not believe in having to have a babysitter for your dog, which is why we're working on the separation anxiety. I think that's very silly.
Right.
So we're really trying to work on that.
Yeah, she just needs one for now. She'll grow out of that.
Exactly. And I feel bad because we have plans on Saturday too. I think that she might have to be in a crate on Saturday. So I feel less guilty knowing at least she won't be crated 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor pup. But she's a good girl. I can't wait for you to meet her.
I know. I want to meet her. I want all the dogs now. It's kind of weird because I have been dogless for a long time. Like I grew up with dogs, but like, we had to put them down at one point and stuff. And so we haven't had any new dogs. And a lot of times people would talk about their animals and like, I could understand on like a distant level. They're like, look at how cute my dog is. Look at how much I love my cat. And like, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, I get it. Animals are cool. And now that like, we're going to have puppies, I'm like, I want all of the puppy pictures. I just want to talk about them all the time. Like, I'm so excited.
I talk about Brownie so much and I cannot even tell you how much money I've spent on like new toys and new treats and training stuff for her. And I want to get her a new collar and I got her a new little tag and I got her shoes. I got her dog shoes. But
oh my gosh, have you looked up videos of dogs with shoes on?
No.
It's so funny. They're so weird for the first few minutes that they kind of like dance around because they don't know how to walk. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. I mean, the reason that I got them, I'm not just being like the overly doting dog mom, although I am a little bit, but that's not why with the shoes. She's basically because she's only really been inside. And I mean, it's rough terrain out here. We're on a farm, so it's not paved. And so she'll run around on the gravel And I guess she like must have cut her foot on like a really sharp rock or something, or gotten a burr stuck in her foot. And then she
Right.
chewed. The problem was she like chewed all the skin off the bottom of her paw. So we've been
Ah,
we've been bandaging her foot for 3 days now. And it finally looks good enough. I think we can leave the bandage off. But because her little paws are so soft, so partly that we want to get her the shoes to wear until it's totally healed up, so that just to protect it. But then also because it gets so hot here. If you live in Arizona, you know. And so we want to be
yeah.
able to take her with us when we go places. But when we're going to go places in the heat, it'll burn her the pads of her feet to walk on the concrete. So she needs
Right.
the little shoes to protect her little feetsies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll see how much she
Aw.
hates it. She did not love. Now the thing is, now she's really wary of me putting stuff on her feet or touching her
Yeah, I
feet
bet.
because she hated me putting the bandage on. I could only put it on when Hoppy was helping because she just threw an almighty fit
Mhm.
every time.
Yeah. Dogs are funny. They like don't understand that you're trying to help. So they're like, why are you doing this to me? This is all your fault. But it's
Exactly. And
not.
they look at you with these wounded eyes, like, how could you betray their
Yeah.
trust? And you're like, this is for your own good. And they're
Yeah.
like, I
You don't
can't believe
understand.
that you would betray me like this. It's so sad. Poor pups.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, what is our word of the week? I guess.
Yeah. Our word of the week is oleaginous. I believe that's how you would say it.
Oleaginous.
Oleaginous.
I love it.
It means having the properties of oil, greasy, distastefully complimentary, or falsely sincere. So it can be like literal
Oleaginous.
and yeah, oleaginous. So it's like literally about oil, but then also, like an oily person that's just like
Uh-huh.
constantly, like saying false things and stuff. So it can be either one of those.
Oh yeah, she's so oleaginous. You just can't trust anything she says.
Yeah.
My dog about me after bandaging her paw.
Yeah. This is what Brownie thinks of Ash deep down.
She's like, nah, she's too oleaginous. She seems nice, and then she traps you and she puts antibiotic cream on your paw, and it's
She's so
horrible.
false.
So false. And then I had to duct tape the outside of the bandage because I can't keep her inside. She's so upset to be inside all the time. So then the duct tape basically protected the gauze enough that it wouldn't get filthy or get stuck on everything.
Right.
So she's just running around with like a duct tape paw.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been a good first few days with her here. I felt so bad.
Aw, poor thing.
Anyways, yeah, poor thing. What about book recs?
Um, I haven't been reading, so I have nothing. I've been writing.
All right. Well, I think I have
What about
one
you?
that you will back up.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think this was a book rec from you, and we're doing it on That Pretentious Book Club, the other podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Illumine.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you read that one.
I don't know what I expected. I think I thought it was a fantasy, even though I think you told me it's a sci-fi. It's sci-fi, and
Yeah.
it's freaking amazing. Like if I was going to cuss on this
so
podcast,
good.
I would cuss now because it is so effing good, you guys.
Yes.
I mean, you can get it on audiobook too, and I will give them this. They did like a full casting and sound effects in the audiobook, so it is
Oh,
good.
wow.
Yeah, which you had to do when you look at the way that the book is printed. You
Mm-hmm.
guys, even the audiobook, it's excellent, it's great, but it is nothing compared to reading the book because like the way it's formatted, it's like a compilation of different like reports about this incident that happened in space, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool. Oh my God. And the pages are all artistic, and some of them, like the words are in different shapes, and easily the coolest like printed book I've ever read. So I'm actually kind of
It's so
sad
cool.
when I have to listen to the audiobook because I'm
Yeah.
multitasking. Even though the audiobook is also probably the best audiobook I've ever listened to.
Right. I'm
All
glad to hear
around,
that they
it's
did
good.
that for the audiobook.
Yeah, they did.
Because it requires that type of level of effort.
I think they knew. And at first I was like, this is expensive. Like compared to, I usually do like the $3 audiobooks off of Chirp because I'm trying to just save money.
Right.
And I'm doing a combination of listening and reading because I'm multitasking when I don't have time to read. But this time it was worth it. It was so worth it.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend the book.
Gosh.
I assume Karissa does too, because she recommended it to me. Yeah.
I'm so glad that, I don't know, I'm just I'm so glad these books exist because I feel like it's so hard to find good YA sci-fi. And like, I think it's my least owned genre, but I love it so much. So it's not because it's not because I don't like them. It's because I can't find them usually. And these are it's a trilogy and they're all so good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so glad you liked it because
I love it.
I love it.
Sci-fi can be hard to find that's not kind of hokey or overly like in trend, like the deep sci-fi trend ones, which if you're not already deeply into the sci-fi world, like it kind of will go over your head. So this is perfect for everybody. Like you don't have to be into sci-fi to love this book. I think it's by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It's by two people also, which I'm assuming that she wrote the chick part and he wrote the dude part. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Because Jay Kristoff is the Nevernight guy. He wrote that one too. And it's so interesting because he has such a different style in the two.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that is her.
I don't know, but you get to like read from different perspectives and stuff. And it's, oh my God, it does a thing where like, it's like they transcribed like an interview between characters, which is one of my favorite things to read. So I think this would make an excellent movie, like 100% an excellent movie. So
it really would.
Yeah.
If you guys like have wanted to read them.
Listen.
Yeah. And if you've wanted to read them and you're like put off by the fact that it's so long, it's so fast. It goes by so fast because it's not full pages of writing. A lot of it is like pictures or writing going across the page in an interesting way. So
I was so intimidated because of the size of the book, but the audiobook is only like 9 hours, which is actually fairly average. And then, first of all, you speed through the book because the content is just so easy to read that you go really fast, but also because it's only that thick of a book because of, like you said, like a lot of the pages are like artwork or they're spaced out really weirdly. All of the transcripts have a lot more spacing between lines than like you actually would in a book. So I mean, it would, without all of that, it would probably be half the size, which is actually, a completely average, not long at all book. So don't be intimidated by the size. It is even if it were long, it would be worth it, but it's actually not
still
long.
Be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the book that I convinced my dad to read last year as his one book of the year. So
did he like it?
Finish it. I think so. It's always hard to tell with him, but he's a sci-fi guy. And I think he ultimately liked it because then he came to me and he's like, do you have the sequel? And I was like, yes, I have the sequel. Here, take it, read it now.
Nice. I love that your dad's a sci-fi guy. Now I want to talk sci-fi with him. This is also when I was thinking, I think I could get Hobby to read. I don't know why. This is really a book that like guys, girls, nerds, non-nerds, like this is a book that it seems like you'd have to be accessible not to like. It's so accessible for everybody. So good.
Yes, strong agree.
Very, very intense book rec corner for us this episode. Completely, because I am now obsessed with this book. And oh no, it's a series. I don't have time to read a series, Karissa. Why did you do this?
There's only 2 more.
Oh, I'm literally in tears in my eyes because of how badly I want to finish this series.
It's so good. I did. So when I read this, just to talk about it even more, I was working at Barnes and Noble and I just finished the first one. And I was like, I work at a bookstore. I can go into work, buy the book on my break and I can have it today. And I went in and they didn't have it in stock. They only had the first and the third. And I was like, this is the most devastating moment of my life.
That's horrible.
I wanted it so bad. I know. I wanted it so bad.
Wow. That's rough. That's admittedly rough.
But I did survive. I'm here today.
I am so pleased to hear it.
Yes.
Well, should we get into our theme for this episode?
Yes. So in honor of Easter, which is in 2 days from when you guys are probably listening to this, we're going to talk about the resurrection trope.
Ooh, she texted me and I was like, this is a fabulous idea. Let's do it.
Right? I really like being in theme. So
I do too. It makes me so happy. We are doing an Arbor Day book for That Pretentious Book Club for Arbor Day.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Anyways, very silly.
Yeah. That's such an obscure one to be on theme for. But I
I
like that.
know it is. Well, Lexi is joining us. Lexi also went to college with Carissa and
Oh,
I. So Lexi,
yeah.
we've heard of her over at TPBC as our holiday fox because she just pops up on all the holiday
Mm,
episodes. So she's joining us for that episode,
nice.
but that's a ways away. Anyways, back to the resurrection trope. I have a
Yes.
question for you.
Okay.
Are you pro or con resurrection trope? Because I feel like I know.
Yeah, I mean, I am mostly con, but I support it in certain cases, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought you'd say.
Yeah. Are you pro or con?
I am probably the reverse. I'm
Oh my
probably
gosh.
mostly pro and then con in some areas. I don't know. I mean, that might be too generous. I don't know. Okay, so the reader in me really is
Mm-hmm.
is mostly pro resurrection trope because I can't
Okay.
handle really intense stuff. I love there being hope. I love it when someone you thought was dead is not actually dead. It makes me so happy.
Mhm.
As a even as like a casual writer, I'm pro. As a critical, if I'm being critical, like critically
Mm,
academically minded, then I would say
yeah.
I'm probably more on your side of it because it is harder to thematically give it enough to thematically have enough credence to do that because you need a
Yeah, it
really
can
good
become
reason.
gimmicky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the thing is that like as a casual writer and also as a reader, I don't care if it's gimmicky.
Right.
Even as a writer, it depends. It depends. If I'm being very self-gratifying or if I think that my readers will really enjoy it, I'll do it anyways. But if I'm going to
Yeah.
be like really academically minded or I'm working on a piece of fiction that's a little more elevated in like theme and style, then I probably wouldn't do it unless I had
Right.
an amazing reason.
Yeah. Because I think part of it too is what do we mean by resurrection trope? Because there's the literal resurrection, which is where a character dies and then something in the universe brings them back to life. But then there's also like the sort of tangential ones where it's like they faked their death. So it's not that they were dead, it's that you just didn't know they were alive, or that, had an evil twin. So like you thought they were dead, but they weren't, or they are dead, but it's the twin that's been, acting as them, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there are multiple ways to do it. Um, you know?
It's true. It's true. And I love almost all of the ways.
Yeah. I guess my only thing with it, I mean, it's a big thing, but it's that you can't overuse it. So
Yes.
first of all, I don't think an individual author should overuse it. So if you find that like you're writing many different books or many different series and it pops up in all of them, I think you shouldn't do that because then I think readers can get to a point where they predict it and you
Yep.
kind of cancel out your own stakes. And,
Yes.
then it doesn't, your story doesn't have the same effect. But I
That is
also
my
feel like, and
problem.
this is a general thing. Yeah, this is a general thing when books or genres as a whole just feel like they're using it all the time, then that can start to get old, even though it's unique to each story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you should have an eye for how many books have you read that have the resurrection trope. Has it been a while since you've seen it done well? Then that's probably the time to do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is timing and marketing, and it's hard to predict that kind of stuff. But it's the kind of thing that can get old fast for me. But
Yeah.
some people disagree.
I
Like
agree.
Ash.
I think, well, no, I mean, I don't actually totally agree. It's totally self-gratifying that I'm so enjoy this trope. It's not exactly good writing. I would say, unless it's more meaningful to resurrect your character than it is to leave them dead or gone or missing or whatever it is, then
Mhm.
don't do it. Like it should be, and this is me telling myself this as well, because it can be really tempting for those of us who don't want to lose our characters or we just really enjoy the resurrection trope, to bring
Mhm.
back a character because maybe you can feasibly, maybe you can work it logically into your story, but unless it's more meaningful to bring them back than it was to leave them gone, you shouldn't. I don't think you should do it. I think even
Yeah.
if you're okay doing some gimmicky stuff every now and then, and I'm okay doing that every now and then, I
Yeah.
do think that resurrection is such a big important trope that it should not be done willy-nilly, which is what I'm trying to get out of the habit of doing in my writing. So there's a lot of, I will say I have the instinct to include a resurrection trope in every single book. Do I
Yeah.
actually no, I don't actually do it. I do want to do it though. But I will say the most meaningful books that I've written probably are the ones where I had the opportunity to do it and I didn't. So it's
Yeah.
about being very intentional when you choose to resurrect or not resurrect a character.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you do it, even if you do it sparingly, it can almost, if you're not careful, it can undermine the original tension and stakes of the death in the first place,
Absolutely.
which can then lead readers to feeling like they've been tricked or like stakes aren't high anymore. And this is the problem when you do it over and over. So, like, I know it's not a book, but Supernatural did this,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone's coming back to life so much that it creates two problems.
Mm-hmm.
One is which the stakes seem low now. So you can say, oh no, everyone's going to die, but like, why do I care if I think they can all be brought back to life? But then two, it also creates potential inconsistencies. So if you want to create stakes, and so now you're like, well, this death is permanent, then you have to give an explanation why that death is permanent and why they can't be brought back too. And that is just really hard to keep consistent in world building, like from a world building perspective.
Yeah, it's true. I think pretty common also is the my missing parent who I thought was dead is not actually dead, which is a type of resurrection trope.
Yeah.
That's one, it's hard because sometimes that is the stake, kind of where like that's where the character is only doing everything they're doing because they're trying to save their parent because of that slim chance that maybe they're not dead. So then if you don't
Yeah.
let them have the resurrection, it can feel like, what was all of this for? And that's where it's really a
Right.
case by case basis, because if they learned enough other
True.
stuff along the way and there were like other things at stake besides just the parent, then it could be more meaningful to let that character, that parent actually be gone or dead instead of
Yeah.
resurrecting
Yeah.
them.
It depends
But if
on if you're
that's,
trying to go dark.
yeah, but if that's also, if that's your only stake, if that's the only main purpose that your character has, and then you don't resurrect them, that's where I would say it's going to feel like a
No
trick
hope.
not to do it. Yeah, but that's, yeah,
Yeah.
no hope, exactly. But that's pretty rare. That's a pretty rare setup. I would say that it's better anyways to give your character multiple, well, I mean, they should, there be multiple things at stake, but also they should have multiple
Yeah.
purposes, because then you have more freedom to do something like not resurrect a parent to make it more meaningful. But I also
Right.
don't want to see people like avoiding the resurrection trope just because it's a trope, because it is a
Yeah.
trope because people like it. So you just need to know when and how to use it.
True. I was thinking about it. I was comparing it in my head to prologues and Deus Ex Machina. And like these are generally overused to the point where we have generally negative connotations with them, but they can be done well if your story necessitates them. So you just have to be careful that you're not doing the resurrection trope because you like it or because you're trying to force it into the story. It does
I
need to
agree.
be required by the plot and make sense with your world. So like for instance, if it's a fantasy, it's probably going to make more sense than, I mean, you really shouldn't be doing it in contemporary or realistic stuff. Sci-fi, if there's a scientific reason behind it, that can make sense. So it just needs to make sense in your world. I was also thinking, do you think Frankenstein is a resurrection trope? It's like bringing something
Um,
back to life.
Weirdly, I would, in the most technical sense, maybe, but in the actual sense,
Maybe.
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I
Because
don't
like
think
in
so.
horror, and I mean Frankenstein is kind of a horror book.
Yeah.
Like horror, the slasher comes back to life constantly. And that's why
Oh,
sometimes, sequel 5
yeah,
sucks
they keep,
because now you're like, well, this is just not fair anymore.
yeah, because they keep like resurrecting the same character. Well, that's when it gets really repetitive too. Like resurrect, I would say resurrect a character once. That's all you can do. Don't do the thing where they died, they're actually alive, they died again, and now they're alive again. If there's two
Right.
deaths, that second death better be the last death. I will say, I have never seen it done where you kill them again and then resurrect them
And it
again
works.
and it works. I've never
Yeah.
seen it work ever. I'm not to say that it can't, but almost to say that it can't work. I cannot imagine it working. People do it, don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I agree. Because again, it undermines your own stakes, because when you kill off a character, really what you're trying to do is say, look, here are the consequences of the things that are going on. This is why it's important. This is what people are willing to give up for it. This is why the bad guy is evil, et cetera, et cetera. And if you keep bringing them back to life, that doesn't work so much anymore.
Yeah.
I see this too. And again, this isn't a lot of TV shows that examples are coming to mind, but in like the Vampire Diaries, people will come back to life and it will serve as like the justification for why the bad guy can now be the good guy. Because now that the person is alive again, everyone can forgive them for killing them. And I'm like, that doesn't follow at all.
No, no, no.
And I think
yeah.
I think
Sorry.
with TV shows, that's just because they want to bring actors back and they want the actors to stay on. I don't think they're thinking of it from a plot perspective.
I was actually
anyway.
just going to say, I don't think that resurrection should be used as a plot device. I mean, in the sense that everything should happen like in a chain of events, yes. But the thing is, the character's story should go on, obviously, whether or not that character gets resurrected. So while it can complicate the plot, and it should absolutely complicate the plot, it shouldn't Deus Ex Machina, so it shouldn't solve everyone's problems, and it should not be a plot device. So it should not cause the story to change into a totally different direction. I think it should continue in the same direction, unless you're doing a resurrection at the very beginning of a story, in which case it could be a catalyst, but that's pretty uncommon. Right. So if you really want to do it, maybe the way to do it is to throw it in at the beginning as a catalyst, because it's pretty common to see it like in the last 2/3 or at the end. Yeah. But don't use it as Deus Ex Machina, and don't use it as a plot device, because that's crazy.
I agree. So like the one example I want to talk about, which is my exception, this is why I'm not fully con, is Scythe by Neil Schusterman. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So in Scythe, the premise is that there is no more death. It's a dystopia, and they essentially can just bring people back to life when they die of natural causes or accidents or anything like that. So there are a ton of resurrections over the course of this series. But I love these books so much, and there are several reasons why. One is that the limits of who can be brought back to life and why are set up very early on. So like, for instance, they can only bring people back to life if their bodies are generally intact, if they can like find all of the like guts and gore and material, and they can essentially just like reanimate all that. And it's not like, I mean, I'm sure it's gross, but it's not gross in the book. So if, for instance, someone gets burned, if their body is burned, they can't bring those people back to life. And so it's not that there are no stakes, it's that the stakes have been shifted. So if someone they're like, okay, well, they're going to come back. And so it's just a matter of time. If they're on a deadline, then that's the stake, because you're like, oh no, they're not going to get resurrected in time. Or if you see the bad guy starting to build a fire, you're like, oh no, they're going to make it impossible for them to come back, which is almost worse, because these people live in a world where they're not supposed to be susceptible to death. So it's just very well done in that sense. And then the reason it's called Scythe, right, and the whole kind of premise of the main characters is that there are people that specifically kill, and that's like their job, because they have to have population control. And so everything in the book is really centered around the idea of death, as kind of weird as that sounds, especially for how, I don't know, like lighthearted these books are. And they're not lighthearted, but they're fun as well as being serious. But everything in these books kind of contributes to that resurrection. And so it almost takes it to an entirely different level, where resurrection is the point. And if it is the norm, how does that change stakes? So I really like how Neil Schusterman did that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that one is definitely a huge exception to pretty much all the other rules about the resurrection trope, because the entire series is based around death as a concept. Death and resurrection is the concept for the book. So in that case, he can do whatever he wants, because he broke the rules. So if you want to write a book and the main theme or the main setting has something entirely to do with death and or resurrection, then go for it.
Right.
But like Karissa said, that does shift the stakes. So you can't use quite the same stakes. You have to adjust your stakes to make it still as impactful, because for, books where that's not the main theme, death is typically a fairly strong stake. Although it's funny, because for fantasy books, that's never enough of a stake. It's also got to be like, and the world's going to end.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking about it too. And this, I can't remember. I don't think this happens in Scythe, but it happens in a different series that I'm not going to name because it's a huge spoiler. Sometimes if resurrection is the norm, it's almost a form of torture, right? Like if someone just keeps coming back to life and you can keep killing them, and, putting them through that. And so that is a different kind of stake too. So if that's the kind of thing you want to talk about, like essentially the theme of what is worse than death, is there something worse than death? Which I think the answer is yes. But if you want to explore that, then maybe the resurrection trope is something you should really confront and use.
Yeah. If you want to do it, if you want to like present a twist on the resurrection trope because you're trying to make a statement about death or resurrection or life or what's worse than death, then go for it, because it's all about being intentional. So if you're going to use resurrection in a way that's intentional to prove a point or to prove your theme or to support your theme or because you're explicitly trying to pull some kind of twist on the trope, then go for it. But it's just something that you don't want to throw around willy-nilly.
Yes. Yeah, because like generally speaking, I really feel like I don't want to like pin myself in here, but I feel like each author should get 1 or 2 resurrections in their careers. And at that point, you should stop, because then it just becomes your thing and people see it coming, and then it loses all effect.
That's pretty valid. I mean, okay, well, I guess that's assuming that your readers, your dedicated readers, read all of your books. So
True.
I mean, it's possible that, people who read your work intermittently might not catch on to it, but then that's if you don't get really popular, because then everybody knows what happens in your books, even if they haven't read it. So no, I would largely agree though. Like really, you get 2, I would say 2 resurrections for your writing career, because you're right. Unless you just write a ton of stuff, unless you're like insanely prolific, then yeah. Otherwise, because people
if you're writing like 80 books.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, then you can. Yeah,
because I'm thinking, as I often do about Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah, as I
just sit here and think about her. Yeah, and her thing, it's not the resurrection trope, but her thing is that I think all of her series so far, you can't trust the first love interest, right? So people have now gotten to this point where a love interest will show up on page 1 and they're like, okay, I'm going to purposefully not like them. And so at that point, any effect that you planned for that interest, maybe they're going to betray them, or maybe there's going to be a love triangle, all that is ruined, because even if you follow through, or if you go the completely opposite direction because you knew people were going to think that, it's really going to color people's experiences with that character. And so it's kind of the same with the resurrection thing. It's really the same with anything. If you do the same thing too often, I mean, ideally you want to be a good enough writer that you do have a loyal readership. And if you keep tricking them or keep giving them the same thing over and over, I just think that's unfair, because I hate this as a reader. I want to be surprised and not see things coming and be entertained and not feel like I'm just reading a different version of the same story over and over.
I totally agree.
So I don't know. That's just me. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's where it comes to really knowing yourself as a writer and what your strengths and your tendencies are, and also going back to reread stuff that you've written even a long time later, because everybody has a different thing. Whether your thing is resurrection tropes, you might be like, that's not my problem. You have a different problem. Don't worry. We all do. My thing is typically very emotionally distant female leads. That's my thing. That's what they all are. Is it because I'm emotionally distant? Who cares? This isn't a therapy session. That's not the point. The point is
moving on.
The point is that if I keep presenting readers with essentially the same protagonist, there's always a couple twists, but if I keep presenting them with the same baseline emotionally distant protagonist, then I'm presenting them with a lot of the same plot, because inevitably that character is going to have to learn about the consequences of being so emotionally distant, and they're going to come up against a lot of the same conflicts, because people who are emotionally distant across the board, as different as they may be, they have the same problems. Exactly. So that's going to keep happening. So it's going to be like I'm telling kind of the same story, even if I change some of the features. It's still going to be too much the same. So that's my tendency, and I'm aware of it. So I'm trying to like put more of a twist on it. At least put a twist on it, guys, if you don't like have the capacity to completely break out, because that is what I know. So when I write from first person, or I write a character that I need to know really intimately, they're always going to skew that way a little bit. But try to be intentional about not falling into your habits. So if resurrection trope is your habit, I would say steer clear of that one if you can. But whatever your habit is, just know it. Know yourself as a writer. and know why you do it maybe, and then try to either to not do it or put a crazy spin on it.
Yeah, I agree. Because I'm thinking, what's mine? I know what mine is because I do it all the time. It's betrayal. I always have characters betraying each other. And I originally, when I first started writing, thought this was just a thing that everyone does. It's not, it's a me thing. I mean, it happens in other books, but it is a me thing.
It is a you thing.
But if I get, if I get too hung up on this, if every book that I write has a betrayal like this, people that read my books a lot are going to see it coming. They're going to be suspicious of people that for that book you have no reason to be suspicious of, but because it's me, they're going to be suspicious. And I don't want to do that. If I have a betrayal, I want it to be impactful. If I do the resurrection trope, I want it to be impactful. And so I do think you should think carefully, not only does it work for this book, but what is it contributing to my body of work? I don't know. That's the thing you have to think about. What kind of a writer do you want to be? But I think that's something you should definitely keep in mind, because I think about that all the time. I want to be able to be the kind of author that people read everything. And therefore I have to think about, okay, well, if they read this book first, is the twist in this one then going to be really obvious, or vice versa? So, I mean, don't let that hold you back too much, but I think it's something you should think about.
Exactly. If you're writing casually for a hobby, you can really take all this with a grain of salt. But if you're intending to be published and you want to have a wide readership, then this is important stuff to keep in mind. If you're okay being a little more gimmicky and you don't really care how many people read your books, maybe it doesn't matter so much. I would like a wide readership, so I don't want to. I also just realized as you were talking about that, I have a habit of writing a betrayal trope into, but it's not, it's like the faux betrayal, like where the character thinks that they've been betrayed and then they find out that it hasn't actually been a betrayal, which is also not good because that's in a couple of my books. I guess technically I'm not good publishing all of these books, so technically readers won't know that unless you listen to this podcast and then I've told you. But that does mean that
right, we told you our secrets.
Yeah, that basically means as soon as I get published, and or if I'm working on anything that I hope to have published, I have to be a lot more aware of that in the future as well.
Yeah. And like Ash said before, if you put twists on things, you can kind of hide them in plain sight. I don't think readers have super strong memories that they're going to remember every detail. Just don't make it the same version over and over so that readers start to get a pattern.
Seriously. Yeah.
That's really
just hide the
main
pattern.
thing.
It's okay to have patterns, because the reason that we tend towards the things that we do, the reason I tend towards emotionally distant characters is because that's what I know so well. And you do want to use your strength. So I don't want to altogether toss that out the window, because there's a reason I write those characters well. And there's a reason that people have enjoyed previously, who have read them, enjoyed and related to those characters. So you don't want to throw out your strengths, but you do want to, like Karissa said, you want to kind of hide them in plain sight, because it gets old. But you don't have to toss them out automatically. If you're really good at writing a betrayal trope, don't toss it out. Just find like a new way to do it. And there's always a new way to do it. If you're not sure, then like go read basically. If you ever hit writer's block or you're not sure what to do, just pick up a bunch of books and just go read, because something will hit you eventually. Or talk to other writers. Say, hey, I'm feeling the urge, I'm feeling the itch to put in a betrayal right here, or to write an emotionally distant character. How can I do that without doing that? And writers
tell me what to do.
Resource. Tell me what to do. Writers are great at that kind of stuff. It's that what's that? It's like when you're trying to like find like a way to describe something totally abstract. That's what writers do. So yeah, reach out to your writer friends for that kind of stuff too.
Yep. Let's see. I thought I had one more point about the resurrection trope. What is your, just off the top of your head, if you have one, what's your favorite resurrection in a book or a movie or whatever?
I like in the Bible how Jesus comes back to life.
Okay, that's cheating. That's obviously the best example.
I don't know. That's hard. Honestly, it's so much of the stuff that I like read and watch is a little bit gimmicky, so I'm sure there's been like 1,000 resurrections.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, I'm going to interrupt you from my own question, but I was thinking about Harry Potter and how that's a flip on the resurrection trope, because it's the bad guy coming back to life.
That was a good one.
So,
there's another, there's another like parallel resurrection at the end. Sorry, spoilers.
Yes.
That was too late.
Gosh, you're so right. I was I was thinking about Sirius and Dumbledore, also spoiler, sorry, and how much I thought they were going to get brought back to life. Like I was a kid, I was like, J.K. Rowling's definitely going to bring him
Thought
back
so
to life. And then they
too.
didn't. And I was so heartbroken. But then
Yeah.
she saves it. She saves it for the end when it has even more impact. And that's the
She
kind of
does.
stuff you should do.
I totally agree. She so nailed that resurrection.
Mhm.
Both of the resurrections. I don't know. There's one series, dang it, what's it called? Oh no, I haven't put all my books back yet, so I can't look at my
You can't look
bookcase.
at a shelf.
No, dang it. It's a sci-fi book. It's a kind of not an entirely different concept than your Scythe series. But it's not a dystopian future necessarily. It's just a future. And basically people can like old people can have like their consciousness, like if you're rich
Is it
enough, can have
matched?
your no.
Oh, okay. Go on. I thought I was going to be
But
really
that's a
cool and know
series
the
that's
book.
been on my list. So that one's, you know, all of the books. So there's a good chance you do know it. I just don't remember it. The Matched is on my list to read. No, like if you're like old enough and rich enough, you can basically have your consciousness uploaded to this like database thing. And then then people like poor young people can like come in and get paid a bunch of money to like rent out their body for like, you know, a week or a month or whatever, and they get paid, and the old people with all the money whose consciousness is in this database will pay to inhabit your body or whatever for that period of time.
Wow.
So
That sounds so familiar.
it's so good. It's so funny. Like I think I
Yeah.
grabbed it at half price books or something. And I was just like, it's kind
Nice.
of a fun cover. I don't remember what it's called. If anybody remembers, please DM or message us. I have to get through all my books. I still have boxes and boxes of books that are just still unpacked. But I thought that was really interesting because it's another twist on the resurrection. So probably my favorites are the ones that are a twist on the resurrection. So
Yeah, I think that's fair.
there's just been
Yeah.
so many resurrections. It's, you know, like the one where, and secretly her mother was alive the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun. Okay. But it's not the ones that stick
Moving
with
on.
me. So when you're like, what's your favorite one? Obviously, my favorite one is the only one that jumped to mind. So if you want to be someone's favorite resurrection trope, you have to put a new spin on it, I think. If you don't care
Yep.
about being the favorite, you just want to get away with it, you can probably get away with it, depending on the
Mhm.
book. But yeah, if you want to be someone's favorite and you want to stand out, like anything else, if you want to stand out, you have to do it in a unique way, whatever the
Yeah.
trope is. That's the stuff that sticks with
Yes.
people.
For sure. Yeah, darn it. I had a point. I'm sorry. Editing for this is going to suck for you.
No, actually, no, it'll be fine. There's only like a couple.
Okay. I guess I don't have another point. Ash, do you have any more resurrection ideas?
I don't think that I do. I'm just gonna reiterate, if you're gonna do a resurrection, either A, make it meaningful, or B, make it unique. If you can do both, that's the best. But I think if you do one or the other, you're still sitting pretty.
Yeah. I'm going to say a point that I cannot remember if I already made it, so you can tell me maybe. That I think if you're going to do it, it needs an in-universe reason to be happening. So like if someone comes back to life, there needs to be a reason it doesn't happen again. Like it's a one-time only kind of magical item or something like that.
Ooh.
Because, you know, yeah, like you don't want to make it, you, you don't want to bring up inconsistencies. And this is really why I have a problem with the resurrection trope sometimes, is that it's so easy to create plot holes for yourself. So if you can think it through and really say, here is just the natural conclusion or not conclusion to someone's story, right? This is just what would happen. You know, there's this super motivated person to bring them back to life and they have this one way to do it or whatever, that it can work, but it really has to make sense in the universe. And you have to properly illustrate to the reader what the limitations are and why those limitations exist.
Definitely. I think absolutely that might be the best point that either of us have made this whole episode about
good concluding point.
Sure. Your resurrections need to have limitations. that's what'll
Mhm.
raise the stakes. That's what you'll be able to get away with. Even if you want to do multiple resurrections in your writing career, if you put limitations on it, it'll raise the stakes. It'll make it feel more authentic. It'll give you more wiggle room for the future, but definitely apply
Yep.
some kind of limitation. Like, is it a one-time only thing? If so, why? Is that
Mhm.
believable?
And why are they
Does somebody
using it
have
on that
to,
person?
why are they on that person? Does somebody else have to give something up for that resurrection to happen? Is it like a
Mhm.
sacrifice type of thing? So definitely create some kind of limitation. Resurrection should never come without a cost. So definitely think
Yes.
about what that cost or quote unquote limitation would be before you, just commit.
Yeah, it's almost like resurrection should be the catalyst for the problem, not the solution to the problem. So
Yes.
if it's going to happen, there needs to be, some kind of price or whatever. I've seen it done a couple times where, like the person comes back, but they're not the same. That usually
Mhm.
works because, I mean, that is kind of a huge theme across all writing, all cultures, all of time, that if
Yeah.
even if you could bring someone back to life, they wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do like a real legitimate, like this is the same person back from the dead, there needs to be some kind of other cost. Maybe someone else had to take their place. Maybe now they're going to have, I don't know, some kind of problem with
Maybe
healing
everything that
or,
they touch dies.
yes, something like that. Some
Yeah.
kind of cost to just up those stakes. The stakes aren't death. I mean, other places in the story, death can be the stake, but for this person, death is no longer the stake. What does that now mean for them? I just think when
It's
you
gonna
add
be
those kinds of
something worse.
layers to it, yeah, it can really work and it can be even better than not having it at all. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
I totally
opinion.
agree. I think that that's
Yeah,
an excellent opinion. Lewis.
thank you. I agree, Tolkien, with my own narcissism. Woohoo.
Oh, all the time. Anyways, is there anything else that we want to say about the resurrection trope?
No, I think I finally made all my points. I feel very accomplished.
Excellent. Well, you said that you've been writing lately. Do you want to tell us about
Yeah.
that?
Yes. It has been 6 days since I have spoken to you, and I have written on 3 of them. And the other 3 were the in between days where I had severe writer's block. It was just like a back and forth alternating pattern. And it was because there were problems earlier on. And so
Yep.
I kept writing stuff. And then I'm like, this feels great. And then I try to write the next day and I'm like, nope, something's wrong. So then I'd have to go back and fix something. I think I finally got it to a place where I have fixed all of like the glaring plot holes. And so I would guess I'm about a third to halfway through of my current draft. And I'm very
Hell
excited about
yeah.
it. Yeah. Um, People talk about being like a plotter versus a pantser, and I'm mostly a pantser. I plot a little bit, but there are certain things that I wrote over the past couple days that were totally new to me. Like I wrote them out and I was like, where did that come from? And they were so good. And I'm so excited about it.
That is
So I
so
mean it's
exciting.
been, yes. My only problem, this is my one problem that I'm running into, is that I'm discovering that I'm really, really bad at writing nice characters being mean, if that makes sense. So, like, if there's a character that I want people to like or who
Mm-hmm.
are very liked by characters, I really struggle to make them mean. And I know there's this one character, he needs to be mean. There is a character
Mm-hmm.
reason he needs to be mean. And I
Yeah.
keep trying to write mean lines. I keep trying to make him say snide things and whatever. And it always comes out super nice.
Oh
And
my God.
he's like saying to me, like, I need to be mean. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying, but how does one be mean in this situation? And
I
so
have the opposite
it's a struggle.
problem. That is hilarious.
I'm sure you do. This is not a surprise to me. And it's not like I mean, I think I'm generally a friendly person, but it's not like I'm incapable of being mean when I have to be. But there's something about the fact that I like my characters
Yeah.
and I find it tough to make them be mean. And this isn't even a character that like on a moral level I like. But I'm still finding it so hard to let him be mean to people. I just need to let him go. But it's like I can't even think of the mean things to say. So I don't know. That's been a
Wow.
struggle.
That is
Other than that,
funny.
it's been great.
Well, if you ever need anything mean for him to say, I mean, just text me the deeds. I am like, let me get out some of my
Yes.
meanness, my angst. Um, that sounds like
I might
fun.
I the problem is, and this is so silly, Ash, is that I don't want to tell you too much because I don't want to spoil it. And I understand that half of the reason to have writer friends is that they help you get through this kind of stuff. So I might just have to give you the plot twist and tell you what I'm doing so that you can help me figure out how he can be mean, because
See, this is my problem too. But you do have to. I think I spoiled the plot twist for my new one for you and Kendall. And I was just like, I have to. I can't give you the scope of my work. Yeah, I need feedback on this. So, because I needed to know if the plot twist was going to get me the reaction that I needed. And the only way to do that was to tell you the plot twist. So I get it. It's rough. I mean, if you want to preserve some of your writer friends, I mean, I guess that's what writing groups are for. If you guys wanted to join our writers group, then Karissa would have other writers to hide stuff from. So
that's true.
There's that. It's Story Siren Studio on Patreon if anyone is interested. But I'm very intrigued by this idea of potentially getting to help you help your character be mean, especially if it's a character that you like. So if you decide that you want some added meanness from an unbiased party who enjoys that, I am so here for that.
I will utilize you as a resource.
Hell yeah. I'm going to have to probably utilize you for the opposite. All my characters are so snide. And I'm like, I need some of you guys to be nice. I'm not good at that because when I think they're being nice, they're still being snide. So that's my problem.
And like the thing is, I can write villains, I can write mean people, but if I feel like people have good motivations, they're just coming out wrong, I find it so hard to write that. I don't know why. I know this is a reality of the world. I know that most people are like that. I know that I'm probably like that, but for some reason I still struggle with it. So I
get that. One of the characters in one of the most recent books that I finished, he was like that. That was weirdly tricky because my characters, it's kind of the reverse where like they're good people with mixed motivations who in the end kind of make the right choices, largely, but they have pretty bad attitudes. And this other guy was one who's such a nice guy, but so misguided. So that was tricky because I had to make him be awful, but also nice at the same time because his
that's what I'm going for.
Here, that is tricky. I'm still willing to help you, but that is like the trickiest part where you're like, how do I make you come across as nice as you think you are while you're being horrible? That is hard, but that's fun. What like a fun like little mind puzzle to work with.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just going to have to write the book with plot, which is like my strength and all the world building stuff. And then I'm going to have to go back and add the specific conversations. But I would love to not have to do that because I feel like I'm making a lot of work for future Karissa.
Send me the scene because dialogue and conversation is where I excel. My world building is not so good, but I excel at dialogue.
Yeah, I probably will. So anyway, what are you doing? Enough about me. Yeah, that's right. I figured that would be the answer.
Yeah, I put on, so I got like a little like chalkboard to-do list thing I put on the wall. Because there are so many things I have to keep track of on the daily because of my normal job, because of the podcast, and now because we live on a farm. So there's stuff that you just cannot forget to do. And then we're also trying to renovate to keep this house from falling down so we can actually knock it down in a year to build the barn dominium. So there's just like 100,000 things to do. And so I got this chalkboard, and as close as I've gotten to writing is I put journal up at the top in a little checkbox because I need to get back to journaling more. But I am hoping we only have 2 more repairs that really have to be made for like safety purposes. So I am hoping as soon as those are done, the pressure will be off at least. So there'll still be plenty to do around here. And like renovations, like I do want to paint and replace the carpets and stuff. So this is like comfortably livable for as long as it takes us to get ready to knock it down and build the barn dominium here. But yeah, so but my hopes are when the pressure is off and like those last 2 big repairs are done, then I will be ready to write again. Also, Brownie's still settling in, so hopefully she'll be totally settled in. We'll have the chickens. We're getting our baby chicks this weekend, so that'll help. A lot of things that are in flux right now won't be in flux like by next month at this time. So my hope is at that point, Like I'm gonna like, and I have been trying to diligently think about the story more, like we talked about in our writer's block episode. So I'm trying to get more into the headspace until I have the opportunity to get started with the story. And my journaling is a part of that. So it is on my to-do list to journal. So I will be doing that. But that's about it.
Good.
Yeah.
As you were talking about like chickens and stuff, I can't remember. Do you ever have animals as characters in your books?
No, I hate that.
I know. Okay, so I was thinking about this with the puppies. I was like, I feel like if they're around all the time, I'm gonna want to base characters off them. But
Hilarious.
okay, so this is kind of weird, but they're in my Lord of the Flies remix thing, right? I have two characters that are personality-wise based on my childhood dogs. And that sounds so weird, but I couldn't write them in as dogs because it's too weird to me to write animals. So, and also the world I'm writing in, there's no reason for anyone to have pets, which is also a weird thing that wouldn't make sense unless you read the books. But like people don't have pets. So I'm like, I can't just randomly have one person with pets. But I'm starting to get the desire to do that. And I'm like, this is another place where it's like, it has to be right for the story. And you have to make sure it's in universe, reasonable. And it's not. And so I have to stop myself now. So I don't know, because you've had animals like your whole life. And I can't remember any animals in your book. So you resisted or you didn't feel the urge.
I've never really had the urge to. The only time that I've written a animal really into one of my books is actually it was when I still feel like has some potential, but I wrote it when I was fairly young. And it was kind of like her familiar. It was a wolf because I love wolves. I know it's been done to death and I do not care. I just love wolves. And it was kind of her familiar, but it wasn't based on a pet that I had or anything. So yeah, I don't know. It's never happened.
Interesting.
It's never happened. I have based characters on people that I've known in real life. When I was younger, I used to do that all the time. I don't really do that anymore, but I just felt too boxed in. It's never even occurred to me to include my animals.
Well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why it's occurring to me now.
I've had like tens of animals in my life, like so many animals, and it's never occurred to me. Strange. I am kind of hoping that like, we get like all of our farm stuff going, that's going to give me some more inspiration for like more like of my fantasy works, because they tend to be more rural or more agricultural or in worlds that are more agricultural. So I'm kind of hoping I'll get some more inspiration for that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
See, then you can come out here and you can also get some inspiration.
It's true.
Yeah. And then you can meet Brownie.
Oh, I want to.
My good girl who will not be featuring in any of my books, most likely, but she's still a good girl. She might be whining in the other room. I think I just heard her whine.
Aw, she misses you.
No, I think Hobby probably went outside because she cannot stand to be alone. So hopefully those treats come in soon because I need to do some training with her. Anyways, is there anything else that we have to tell people?
No, that's all for me.
That's all for now, folks.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us as always. We will see you next week, and until then, keep writing.
And we will see you on the next page.